Hello, my name is Professor Matthew Rotella, and in this tutorial I'm going to go over using your duplication tools in Maya, in particular the duplicate special tool and the mirror tool, mainly for architectural modeling, but as we go along I'll show you how you can I'll make mention, at least, of lots of different purposes and uses these tools have. Now, just in case you, for some reason, don't know, anything in Maya, if you have it selected and you hit Control D, then when you do that, you will make a duplicate of it, and you'll have two. But a lot of times you want to be more precise than simply making a duplicate and like free transforming it around, and I'm going to go over different ways to go about that sort of thing. So let me just go into my attributes here and in my attributes here, and I'm just going to make the height an even 10, and then what I'm going to do, and I'll make the width 2 and the depth 2 as well. And now let me see here. What I'm going to be making is, at first I'm going to make a sort of colonnade, and then I'll make like a sort of gazebo type shape, and then I'm going to make a tower, mainly using duplicate special in a variety of ways. And a lot of this, what it comes down to, is careful planning and making sure that when you duplicate things, you can either like combine them easily and work with things as you go. So I'm going to keep my geometry relatively simple so that I can keep my selections quick for the tutorial, but let's see, I'm going to insert an edge loop here. Just going to make sure I have the right tool settings going on there. I'm going to insert an edge loop at the top and the bottom, and I'm going to use my grid snapping to make sure that I got these lined up evenly. Now you can make your selection any number of ways and line them up, but I made sure that my column was exactly 10 units high, and now I'm making sure it's exactly that each subdivision is 1 unit high. And now I'm just going to make a couple extrusions. I click and then shift double click to select the whole loop. So I click and then shift double click, and then the whole loop is selected, and shift double click, and now I got both of them. I'm just going to hit extrude and go out. It should snap to be like 1 unit out in all directions, but anyway, I got my basic column. Alright, so now from here I'm going to turn this into a colonnade. Now to make sure, using duplicate special, now to make sure that I can easily combine these, I'll just delete these two faces on either side, and because I'm going to bridge between objects, and now I'll just hit, it's going to be up here in your edit, and then there is duplicate special. And so here I'll just hit reset settings, reset everything back to the beginning, and now I can see I want from my direction axes here, and by the faces I deleted, I want it to go this way, which is on my Z axis, and then these are X, Y, and Z here, and I want to translate it in Z. So I'll just say I'll want to translate it 5 units. Whatever your world units are set to, mine is still set to the default centimeters, so each column, in this case, I don't know what kind of column it is 5 centimeters apart necessarily, but you get the point. 5 units apart, and then number of copies. And I'll just set it to 5. And yeah, and I'll hit duplicate special, and when I do that, I get a whole row of these. Now to bridge between them, they're going to have to be combined into all one mesh, so I can go up to mesh combine, and I can select my individual holes here, and then hit bridge right here. And if you want to change your bridge options, that's relatively easy. You can just go up here and edit mesh and hit your option box, or open up your tool settings, whatever you need to do. But anyway, double clicking selects the whole edge loop, and then shift double clicking selects the other edge loop, and I can bridge. And just bridging across, I get my connected columns, and now I could go again and hit duplicate special on this. And now this sort of duplication can be useful for any number of things, whether you're modeling keys on a piano or keys on a keyboard and you want them to be evenly spaced, or you can do it with fence posts, or really any number of things. You can also apply it to things like when you're making chains and you want the chain links to all be evenly spaced, and things like that. And you can also think about like making like modular blocks. Like you can essentially exponentially increase how many things you're duplicating with duplicate special. Like I can go back in, and now when I duplicate this, which I have 5 of them, so I think that would mean I'd want to translate them now 25 units, or actually I have 6, so I'll say 30 units. And now if I hit duplicate special again, now I have a whole row of columns this way, and just it's fairly easy to again bridge them. Well, first I'll go into object mode, mesh, combine, and then I can go ahead and start bridging. And anyway, you get the point. It doesn't take too long to create this sort of thing, and then if I wanted to create like a whole like field of columns per se, I could then say like edit, duplicate special again, and now I want to translate them in X. So set Z to 0, translate it 5 units in X, and hit duplicate special, and I can really just keep this going as long as I want to. And now, like I said, this can be particularly useful for architectural modeling, but like you can use it for all sorts of things, whether it be arrays of windows, columns, like I said, fence posts. I've done it for creating the scalloping on like the top of rooftops, shingles, basically anything that you need to duplicate in a row. This is your man. And you might notice that what you get will create sort of a mess in your outliner of all these transforms. Just as like a final step for cleanup purposes, whenever you're done working with all of your objects, you can just go ahead and select them, and you can say edit, delete all by type, or just delete by type and history. It'll get rid of all those transforms for you. And you have a nice clean looking outliner yet again. Alright, so now you don't have to limit yourself to duplicating things in rows. Get rid of those, and I'll just recreate my column right quick. 2, 2, 10. Go into my orthograph just by pressing the space bar. Mesh tools, insert edge loop, and boop. And I can hit W, snap it into the place I want. Select the tool again, W, snap it into the place I want. And face, selection mode, go back to, just hit Q, go back to regular selection, and extrude. Oop, you pulled the wrong arrow. And got my column back. Should have just made a duplicate when I started, which you can also use duplicates to essentially like save your progress as you're modeling. That's always pretty handy. Alright, so now let's say I want to arrange my columns in a circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to the edge of my grid, and again I have my snapping on at the moment, and then I'll hold down D and move my pivot to the center, the origin. And now when you duplicate special and you use the rotation, or when you duplicate special in any direction, no matter what, it duplicates from your pivot. So what I'm going to do, you'll see in just a moment. So I want to arrange these into a circle, and I want them to be on the cardinal and tertiary directions. So just a little bit of quick math and thinking will get me there. Now I want to rotate these going around which axis? Around the one facing up in the center. So that means I want to arrange them going in Y. So I want them rotating in my Y axis. And I want a rotation of 45 degrees. This way it hits all of your, like I said, the cardinal directions, like north, south, east, and west, and the tertiary directions. And that way I'll have like a little 8-pointed gazebo guy kind of going on. And I'm going to want to join these also, just like I did before, so I'm going to delete these two faces. And now, like I said, if I want it to rotate in Y, that way it rotates around like such, as opposed to if I were to say have it rotate in X or Z, which if I were to have it rotate in Z, it would rotate around like so, which doing things like this can be useful. You can move your pivot and make like fan blades or some such, or just for the sake of demonstration in X, I hit apply, and I can get this sort of like archway going on, which of course has its own the sorts of applications. But anyway, yeah, I want it to be 45, and now I want to end up with 8 columns, so that means the number of copies I want is going to be 7 in this case, because if I made 8, then my 8th one would be stuck in my original. So I want 7 copies, and here we go. I'll duplicate special, and I get them arranged in a circle. So now I want to go ahead and go up to Mesh, Combine, and once again I can bridge between them and bridge, and I want to make sure that I have one subdivision in the center, which I can change over here in my attribute editor as I bridge, but I can also do that when I go into my mesh tools and I hit the option box, and I can set my divisions to 1 in there. But in case here, just gonna work my way around right quick. And just like that, I have my, like this could be the basis for a gazebo, or perhaps I'm building some sort of tower. And what I can also do is, to make this more evenly a circle, I can select all of these edges that I have in the center here, and I can go into my top orthograph here, and I can just scale them outwards like so, and get that more, and get this to be more of a circle. And you can add like edges so that you can have like smoothing information and stuff like that if you want to throw it in a smooth preview, or if you want to you know, like properly go to mesh smooth, however you want to go about things. And now you can also sort of think like yeah, now you can also sort of think of ways that you could end up making like some sort of roof for this. If you wanted to make gazebo, like let's say I got a cone here, and I just, now a cone isn't necessarily the best primitive for this, but I'm just trying to think of a way just to make a really like quick as I can roof. And get a subdivision on the bottom here. That's what this guy does. He's on the cap. And so I have 16 edges, one for each of my, like even in between, and then one for all the columns. So I can sort of just scale this outwards like so. Lower it down. I can get this vertex in the center, raise it up. I can get this edge, scale it out, and I can also rotate this to line up with my edges here a bit better, which you can kind of see, yeah, right about there. And if I feel the need, I can get all of these here and sort of just extrude them down and whatever. Oh, I got a couple extra in my selection there, and extrude down. Anyway, ain't no thing. It's just if I it's just something to think about, like making shapes, then adding like roofs to them, what have you. And now lastly, I want to go over if I were to want to turn this sort of shape here into some sort of a tower using the mirror tool. So, and what I'm going to do to accomplish this, which before I go on, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up and get rid of all these transforms. So, edit, and I'm going to delete my history. And, okay. So, now what's going to go on is I'm going to get the tops of each of these guys, and this is kind of a demonstration of just like careful planning, what you can end up doing with it, which is one of the key things to figuring out different shapes that you want to model, because a lot of modeling is sort of creative problem solving and like figuring things out like a puzzle. So just go to any side view really, and then I want to extrude these up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then what I'm going to do is delete them, and then here going around on each of these, I'm going to create a subdivision going directly in the middle of each of these columns and then delete the bottoms. And you're going to see why, because as we duplicate this, what I'm going to do is mirror it so that I can just sort of exponentially create something that will keep combining with itself. And what I'm going to do that, first of all, I'll show you a little trick for making sure that your edge loop is inserted directly into the middle. If I go into my tool settings, which you can find just in your general editors here under Windows and tool settings, and it's always also right up here in the corner, as well as just if you hit the option box on the tool in the drop down menu like I did. But if I select multiple edge loops instead of relative distance from edge, which it is by default, and if I set the number of edge loops to 1, wherever I click on these edges, it will insert it directly in the middle. And you can see that even though I can click up here, it inserts it down here perfectly in the middle. And I'm just going to go around to each of my 8 columns. And now I'm going to delete the bottoms, which I can do just by going into my side view, and when I'm in face selection mode, I'll just use my marquee to select all these faces, and now we can, looks like I'm a little bit off here, but that's alright, because I'll just go into vertex selection mode, use my marquee, and just drag these down 1 unit. Because I want this to be perfectly even, so that I get nice, even columns when I mirror it. So, go into my perspective view, got my object, and now I'm going to go into mesh, and then mirror. I'm going to open up my options here. Now, let's see, I'm going to reset the settings so you can see how it's going to be by default. And most of these I'm going to want to leave pretty much at their default settings. So, yeah, I got my bottoms, I got them open on either one. And I want my mirror axis position to be the bounding box. That means that it's going to mirror from the edge, the very top edge, like perfectly, of all of these columns. And I want it to mirror in positive Y from the bounding box, because I want it to grow upwards, essentially. So I'm going to say positive here and Y. And I do want it to combine with the original, so I'll leave that checked. And I do want my border vertices, my border vertices to merge, so I'll leave that. and I'll hit apply. And you can see my tower forming. And I can just hit apply, and then it will grow exponentially from here. And you can use this technique to very easily create towers, and you can like sort of make modular pieces of any sort. And as long as you can keep your geometry up top relatively simple, this sort of duplication can be, well, just very quick, very fast, no matter how ornate your columns are. And then if you want to end up filling all these in, pretty sure you can do multiple at once. There's mesh, and then fill hole, and you can just sort of cap those off. So I'm just shift double clicking to select all of the empty edge loops, and then mesh, fill hole. And then if you want these to once again match these, all you have to do is you can drag them down to be the proper height. So I got my 10 units in between, and then I got my 5 units here, so I just have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can either leave it like that, or I can remake these extrusions. But yeah, and so you can see how, and also because I had merged border vertices on, when I move this vertice up and down, you can see as I mirrored my object, it has in fact perfectly connected with my original base object. And that about concludes things, as just like a few various ways you can use duplicate special and mirror for architectural modeling in particular. But like I said, basically anything that you want to arrange into a circle or a row, or you want it to just like progressively descend in size even. Like for example, I now have my large tower. Like let's say I wanted this tower to get progressively smaller. I can go into duplicate special. I'll have it translate in Z, probably what, 20 units I think? Or I'll do 25 units, translate in Z, get rid of that scale, or get rid of that rotate in Y, and then I'll have it get, I'll have it reduce in size by half, so 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 as it copies, and then I'll say number of copies 10, and I'll hit apply, and now I have something that progressively moves and gets progressively smaller and gets exponentially smaller as it goes down. And so yeah, you can see how you can do many nifty things. I hope this was educational, and alright, thanks for watching.